are hearing that Keith Urban, at least this is the belief of the people who are in Keith and Nicole's circle, is involved in a relationship with another woman. Still wanted to try and make the marriage work. Well, not too long after that, we learned that she had kind of given up on that ever happening and had in fact filed for divorce.
Nicole Kidman's divorce filing from Keith Urban just cracked open a secret that's been brewing for years, and she didn't even need to say a word. On September 30th, 2025, Nicole walked into that Nashville courthouse and dropped the bomb. Irreconcilable differences. The phrase sounds neat, tidy, and cold, but the real story hides deep in those papers. Because inside those legal pages sits a number that says everything louder than any headline. 306 versus 59. That's not random math, that's their custody split. Nicole gets their daughters for 306 days out of the year, while Keith only gets 59. That means she's raising them 83% of the time, while he's around just 17%. That's not a co-parenting balance. That's a cry for help written in court ink. This wasn't two people drifting apart. This was a woman done pretending, done holding it all together while her husband chased spotlights and applause. She's been the glue, the mom, the emotional anchor, and apparently the one keeping the entire ship from sinking. Nicole didn't give interviews, and Keith hasn't said a word either. But silence screams when the paperwork does the talking. Those legal filings speak louder than any tearful confession or PR statement ever could. What they reveal isn't about cheating or some fiery argument, and it's colder than that. It's about a love story that froze over slowly, day by day, as one partner kept showing up and the other stopped trying. This wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the quiet exposure of a life lived in imbalance where Nicole finally said, "No more pretending." The most shocking part of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's split isn't in what they said, it's in what they didn't. Since that September 30th filing went public, the silence has been deafening. No teary interviews, no "we grew apart" Instagram captions, no neatly packaged PR lines about mutual love and respect. Nothing, not even a hint from their reps. Just pure, heavy silence. And that silence is screaming. When celebrities go quiet, you know the truth is buried somewhere they don't want the world to see, and that's exactly where it is. Deep inside the Davidson County Circuit Court filings in Nashville, Tennessee, those aren't rumors or insider leaks. They're sworn legal statements, signed, sealed, and locked down by both Nicole and Keith. Every page is like a confession written in lawyer speak. The custody agreements, the asset splits, the timelines, it's all there, hidden under cold legal terms that reveal the kind of story no publicist could ever spin. You start reading through the fine print and realize this isn't just another Hollywood breakup. It's a breakdown that's been years in the making. And when you line up the numbers, the dates, and the signatures, the truth cuts deep. The documents don't just explain why Nicole left Keith, they show exactly how long she'd been done before anyone even noticed. What those documents really uncover is chilling. A marriage that had already flatlined long before either of them dared to admit it. The papers don't just mark the end, they reveal why the end was unavoidable. When Hollywood stars refuse to speak, their lawyers end up doing it for them, and what those filings are saying about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's home life is brutal. This isn't just about a custody plan, it's a mirror reflecting everything that went wrong behind closed doors. According to the permanent parenting plan, Nicole Kidman is officially granted primary residential custody of their two daughters, Sunday Rose, now 17, and Faith Margaret, 14. The math tells the story better than any press statement ever could. Nicole gets the girls 306 days a year. Keith, just 59. Let's be real, that's not shared custody. That's a mother raising her kids full-time while the father pops in here and there. 2 months out of 12, that's a vacation schedule, not a parent's presence. And that label, primary residential parent, says it all. It means the girls will keep living in Nashville with their mom, while Keith maintains his own separate place somewhere else. Sure, the documents politely say both parents will jointly make major decisions about school and healthcare, but the reality hits hard. Nicole's the one doing the everyday work. The homework help, the late night talks, the early morning drives, that's all her. Keith Urban, one of country music's biggest names, is now written into his daughter's lives as a part-time parent. It's right there in legal ink, the kind that doesn't fade, doesn't lie, and doesn't sugarcoat. This plan doesn't just outline custody, it exposes commitment, the kind that one parent kept giving and the other slowly stopped showing up for. Behind every clause and signature, you can feel it. The quiet heartbreak of a woman who carried the weight alone while the man who vowed forever was always somewhere else. This isn't the setup of a peaceful, balanced divorce. It's the paperwork of a family that's been uneven for years. The kind of arrangement that only happens when one parent has already been doing all the heavy lifting while the other drifts in and out when it's convenient. Nicole Kidman wasn't just granted full custody. She was acknowledged as the one who's been raising those girls all along. And what's wild is what's not written in those papers. There's no mention of Keith's packed touring schedule, no excuses about long flights or time zone chaos, no claims of substance abuse, no court battle about unfit parenting, nothing, just a clean, quiet agreement, like both sides already knew exactly what the truth was and didn't need to spell it out. That silence between the lines is louder than any argument, because it tells you this: Keith either couldn't fight for more custody because his life on the road made it impossible, or he didn't want to. Maybe he realized having the kids full-time would clash with the spotlight. Maybe he chose the stage over the school runs. Either way, those 59 days are hard to defend for a man who built his brand around family values. A truly hands-on dad doesn't settle for 17% of his children's lives. That number alone is a confession. It's not a fresh decision. It's the legal stamp on a pattern that's been going on for years. And Keith's career timeline backs it up perfectly. In 2024, he had one of his strongest years yet. And by 2025, he was all over North America with his High and Alive World Tour. Months on the road, sold-out shows, endless interviews. While back home, Nicole was doing it all. The bedtime stories, the teenage drama, the school events, all without him. This custody split isn't a punishment. It's proof. Proof that the man who sings about love and home has been living miles away from both. Keith Urban has been riding the high of fame. Dozens of shows, packed arenas, millions in earnings, and his name still glowing as one of country music's biggest legends. But that spotlight came with a heavy price, one that you can literally see written in the math of that custody split. Success doesn't lie, and neither do numbers. For a touring musician at Keith's level, being gone 200 or more days a year isn't unusual. That's nearly 2/3 of every year spent in hotels, tour buses, and dressing rooms. Not at home. That means 2/3 of every year away from Nashville, away from his daughters, away from Nicole, away from any real family rhythm. Now stack that against Nicole Kidman's life. She's one of Hollywood's top earners. Forbes even crowned her the highest paid actress of 2024. But her career moves differently. It's not endless travel, it's focused projects. She shoots for a few intense months, then she's back home, grounded. In 2025, while she was filming the Practical Magic sequel with Sandra Bullock, her base stayed right in Nashville. The cameras might move, but Nicole doesn't drift. She returns. That's the real contrast, presence versus performance. Nicole's world revolves around home. Keith's revolves around stages and stadiums. She built stability, while he chased momentum.
Yeah, and there's times in which you can balance it and you do less, and then you can do a little more and you do less, and finding that balance is part of the journey, because you make mistakes, you overdo it. So then you go, okay, now I've got to go and take care of this part of my life because it's suffered, and so that it's constantly rebalancing.
Kidman had always been acutely aware of the need for balance.
And do you feel like you're doing that constantly?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And here's what those court papers quietly confirm. This pattern didn't start when they split. It defined their marriage. Year after year, Keith's tours kept pulling him away while Nicole stayed behind, building a life that had everything but him in it. The timeline buried deep in those documents doesn't just outline logistics. It tells the story of two people living in different worlds, connected by love once, but separated by lifestyle forever. The official papers say the separation happened on September 30th, 2025, the same day Nicole filed for divorce. But here's the part that hits different. Keith Urban had already signed the permanent parenting plan on August 1st, 2025, almost 2 months earlier. So what does that really mean? It means Keith saw that 306-59 custody split. Nicole with nearly all the time, him with scraps. And he didn't push back. He didn't negotiate. He didn't fight. He just signed it. That single signature speaks volumes. It's not just a man agreeing to terms, it's a man walking away quietly, maybe even knowingly, because that's not what someone does when they're desperate to keep their family close. And then there's the next detail, the one that lays his priorities bare. The documents show Keith prepaid all child support he owed Nicole, a lump sum payment made up front, covering everything the court would have required under Tennessee law. No monthly checks, no adjustments, no back and forth, just one big payment, clean and final. That's not normal. In most divorces, parents pay child support monthly, based on income and custody time. But Keith, he cashed it out in one go, and that says a lot. Why? Because his life doesn't run on a family schedule. It runs on a touring one. Monthly payments mean management, accountability, consistency, things that clash with months on the road. So instead, he wrote one fat check and called it done. It's cold efficiency dressed up as generosity. Because when you look deeper, it's the same pattern. Career first, family later. The paperwork doesn't come out and say Keith chose his career over his family, but the math and the money make it undeniable. And that's where the shadow creeps in. The piece of this puzzle nobody's daring to mention publicly, because this isn't the first time Keith struggled to balance fame and family. The custody terms echo an old battle, his history with addiction. Back in 2006, just 4 months after marrying Nicole, she reportedly had to stage an intervention when his alcohol issues spiraled out of control. It was a dark chapter then, but now, nearly 2 decades later, the echoes are back. The lump sum payment, the quick signature, the quiet exit, it all feels like deja vu. The same man fighting the same demons. Only this time, instead of rehab, he's walking away from his family. Just 17 months before Nicole filed for divorce, Keith Urban stood on stage and poured his heart out in what sounded like a love letter dressed as a tribute. He told the world, if you want to see what love in action really looks like, give that a whirl. Nick pushed through every negative voice, I'm sure even some of her own, and she chose love. It was emotional, raw, the kind of moment that made fans believe their bond was unbreakable.
4 months into our marriage, my addictions that I'd done really nothing about blew our marriage to smithereens, and I went into the Betty Ford Center. Nick pushed through every negative voice, I'm sure even some of her own, and she chose love.
But now look at the cold numbers written in black ink. 306 days with Nicole, 59 with Keith. That's not love in action anymore. That's distance in motion. The court papers don't mention addiction, instability, or any specific reason for the lopsided split, but they don't have to. Because when a mother asks for 83% of the year with her kids, and the father just signs off without blinking, something's definitely deeper than busy schedules. So what's really behind it? Was it purely the demands of a global tour, or did Nicole have real doubts about leaving her daughters with him too long? When custody looks this unbalanced, it's rarely by accident. It usually points to either a chaotic lifestyle or quiet concerns about what happens when no one's watching. Nicole didn't have to put those worries in words. The math already did, and Keith's silence when he signed that agreement says it all. A man confident in his parenting doesn't accept just 17% of his children's lives. He fights for them. He negotiates. He shows up. But Keith didn't, and that smooth, drama-free financial split, that's another red flag wrapped in politeness. For a couple married nearly 19 years, you'd expect some tug-of-war over property, assets, something. But their financial terms are squeaky clean, almost too clean. That kind of simplicity doesn't happen by accident. It hints that the cracks didn't start recently. They've been there since day one. The clean numbers, the quick signature, the quiet divide, it all suggests this wasn't just a sudden breakup. It was the final step in a marriage that had been quietly unraveling for years. Both Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban walked away from this divorce with zero financial ties. No spousal support, no ongoing payments, no shared earnings. Each keeps everything they built under their own name. Nicole holds onto her film and TV empire, while Keith keeps his music catalog, royalties, and touring money. That's clean, final, and ice cold. This kind of total separation after 19 years of marriage doesn't happen by accident. It screams ironclad prenup. From day one, this marriage came with boundaries written in legal ink. And when you step back and think about what that means, it changes the whole picture. Back in 2006, when Nicole said "I do," she was already a powerhouse, an Oscar winner, one of the highest paid women in Hollywood, and a global icon. She'd already lived through one of the most public and painful divorces of all time with Tom Cruise. She learned that lesson the hard way, and this time she wasn't playing around. So before marrying Keith, she locked in protection. Every dollar she made stayed hers, and Keith agreed to it. That's not bitterness, that's strategy. But it also quietly tells a story about trust. Because when a couple builds their love on separate ledgers, it says something about how much they were willing to risk emotionally. There's security, and then there's distance. And that prenup, all these years later, explains why their split looks so smooth. No messy financial war, no bitter courtroom drama, just signatures, silence, and separation. It's neat, it's professional, and it's a little heartbreaking. For a marriage that once looked like one of Hollywood's strongest, the truth is right there in the paperwork. This wasn't just a love story. It was a contract from the start. From the very beginning, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban built their marriage like a business deal with an escape plan already in place. They knew it might not last, so they put the legal safety nets in early, creating a structure that would make walking away clean, fast, and drama-free if it ever came to that. And now, 19 years later, those quiet preparations are paying off. Cold, calculated, and efficient. Their prenup, once meant to protect them from each other, is now doing exactly that, cutting through one of Hollywood's longest marriages with surgical precision. No messy court fights, no drawn-out arguments over assets, no he said, she said over who deserves what. Just signatures, settlements, and silence. But here's the part that stings. That efficiency isn't just about good planning. It hints that both of them always knew this day could come. This wasn't shock, it was inevitability. The clean lines of their divorce suggest the ending wasn't a tragedy, it was a timeline finally catching up to the truth. The most haunting thing about Nicole and Keith's breakup isn't that it happened. It's how long they kept performing the marriage while privately preparing for its collapse. Smiling on red carpets, holding hands at award shows, giving interviews about forever, all while the foundation was already gone. They didn't just fall out of love overnight, they phased out step by step until the paperwork was all that remained. Now let's lay out the real timeline, the one hidden beneath the smiling photos and anniversary posts. June 26, 2025, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban celebrate their 19th wedding anniversary. Keith uploads a black and white photo of the two embracing, captioned, "Happy Anniversary, baby." Nicole mirrors it on her page, sweet captions, glowing emojis, the whole fairy tale front. To the world, they're still that golden couple, the Hollywood dream that survived everything. But behind the scenes, the countdown had already started. August 1st, 2025, just 5 weeks later, Keith Urban quietly signs the permanent parenting plan. And this is where the truth cracks open. He agrees to see his daughters for just 59 days a year. He agrees that Nicole will be the primary residential parent. He even agrees to prepay all child support. One big lump sum, no monthly follow-ups, no ongoing ties. That's not a man negotiating, that's a man letting go. By this point, the divorce isn't a shock, it's already mapped out. Everything is planned, signed, sealed, and waiting for the world to catch up. September 29th, 2025, TMZ drops the bomb. Nicole and Keith are separating. The public loses it, blindsided by the news. How could this be? Just months earlier in May, they were walking the red carpet at the ACM Awards, smiling, holding hands, whispering to each other like newlyweds. It all looks so real. September 30th, 2025, Nicole officially files for divorce in Nashville. And on paper, that's marked as their official separation date. But now we know better. Keith had already signed away the details nearly 2 months before that date ever appeared in headlines. That's the part that cuts deep. The timeline exposes the truth. They both kept hidden. They weren't breaking up in September. They were finalizing what had already been done months earlier. They celebrated an anniversary they knew was their last. They smiled for cameras while their lawyers finalized paperwork. They performed devotion for fans while privately preparing their exits. Every photo, every post, every "I love you" was part of a well-rehearsed act, and the court documents prove it. And here's where Nicole's own words start to sound almost prophetic, like she was warning the world without even realizing it. At the 2024 premiere of her Netflix series, The Perfect Couple, a reporter asked if the title described her and Keith's marriage. Nicole smiled and said, "You're heading for trouble if you consider yourselves the perfect couple. I'm not a believer in perfect." That line hits different now, doesn't it? Was she already hinting at what was coming, or was she just being brutally honest about the cracks nobody else could see? Either way, that single quote now feels like a confession hiding in plain sight. Then came December 2024, when Nicole told The Hollywood Reporter about their family routine. "We have breakfast together every morning and we have dinner. How do we do it? I'm kinda not sure." That hesitation, "I'm kinda not sure," says it all. It doesn't sound like a woman confident in her marriage. It sounds like someone trying to convince herself it's still working. By that point, the distance between them was already growing, and you can feel it in her words. That quiet exhaustion of someone who's still performing love, but no longer feeling it. Yet the show had to go on. In May 2025, they still walked the ACM Awards red carpet, hand in hand, smiling for cameras like everything was fine. Then in June, they posted their 19th anniversary tributes, The Perfect Couple once again, just weeks before the papers were signed. Every public appearance was another act in the play, and they knew the final curtain was coming. When the divorce news finally broke, it wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the end of a long-running performance. And while neither Nicole nor Keith has said a word publicly, insiders are whispering plenty. One source told reporters that the marriage breakdown was no secret among their inner circle. Friends allegedly knew for months, maybe even years, that things were falling apart behind the smiles. The red carpets were just camouflage. The anniversary posts were PR illusions. Everyone close to them knew the love story had already ended. The public just hadn't caught on yet. That one statement, "The marriage breakdown wasn't a secret among their inner circle," says more than any press release ever could. It tells us their friends and family had seen this coming for a long time. The real shock wasn't that Nicole and Keith were divorcing. It was that they'd managed to keep up the act for as long as they did. The public saw a picture-perfect marriage, but behind the scenes, it was already falling apart. Sources close to the couple say it all boiled down to something painfully simple. Their careers made them incompatible. Keith's life revolved around the stage, the road, and constant motion. He was away more often than he was home, literally gone for months at a time. Nicole's schedule was tough too, but at least it had breaks. She'd film a movie, then come home to Nashville. That difference, him gone, her staying, became the quiet wedge that split them apart. And when the divorce announcement hit, the internet immediately started whispering about a mystery woman. Rumors pointed toward Natalie Stovall, Keith's longtime touring guitarist. But here's the kicker. Natalie's been married for 17 years, so those whispers weren't about a cheating scandal at all. They were about something deeper, proximity. Because when you spend 200 plus days a year on tour, the people around you become your real family. Keith's life revolved around his bandmates, not his wife or daughters. So while tabloids tried to spin it into a love triangle, the truth is way sadder. Nicole wasn't competing with another woman. She was competing with the road. Every concert, every plane ride, every sound check was another day farther from home. Another night she put the kids to bed alone. Imagine that. Raising 2 teenage daughters, juggling your own career, and waiting for a husband who only shows up for red carpets and holiday photos. That's not partnership. That's survival. In the end, it wasn't about betrayal or drama. It was about choices. As one insider put it bluntly, Keith chose his career. Nicole chose her daughters. And once those choices were made, there was no coming back from it. It wasn't explosive. It was inevitable. Nicole Kidman never had to sit down for an interview, never needed to post a tearful explanation, and never rushed to control the narrative. She didn't have to, because the truth was already written in ink. The court filing she submitted on September 30th, 2025 says everything without a single word spoken. Every line, every number, every signature tells the story of a marriage that quietly collapsed under the weight of mismatched priorities. The custody split, 306 days with Nicole, 59 with Keith, isn't just legal math. It's emotional math. It's the cold, undeniable proof of a pattern where one parent showed up and the other drifted away. It's the court acknowledging in black and white what love couldn't hide anymore, that Keith's world revolved around career, not home. For years, Nicole was the one showing up, doing the school runs, holding down the house, being both mother and emotional anchor, while Keith was chasing charts in sold-out arenas. The numbers don't just divide time, they reveal priorities. 306 versus 59 is more than custody. It's confession. And then there's that prenup, perfectly polished and airtight. It made sure their finances stayed separate from day one, almost like both of them knew, deep down, that forever might not actually last. Nicole had been through this before with Tom Cruise, and she wasn't going to lose everything twice. So she planned, protected herself, and Keith signed. It wasn't romance. It was realism. The timeline seals it all. Keith signing the parenting plan 2 months before the divorce filing shows that the end wasn't spontaneous. It was staged, rehearsed, and executed quietly behind the scenes. They weren't fighting to save the marriage. They were performing it for the cameras while privately negotiating their exit. And when you see that final phrase, irreconcilable differences, you realize it's just polished legal code for something heartbreakingly simple. You can't build a life together when one person is always gone. You can't sustain intimacy through FaceTime calls and red carpets. Love can't survive when ambition always comes first. Nicole didn't have to call Keith out. She didn't need to drag him through tabloids or interviews. The documents did the talking. Those papers expose it all. The imbalance, the loneliness, the quiet breaking point. Because at the end of the day, 306 versus 59 isn't just a custody split, it's a story. A story of a woman who carried it all until she couldn't anymore. Of a mother who stopped pretending, stopped covering, and finally said, enough. The divorce filings don't spin gossip. They deliver truth, and that truth hits harder than any scandal ever could. In the end, the truth about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's divorce isn't written in interviews, rumors, or press statements. It's written in the silence between them. The numbers, the signatures, the dates, they tell a story that doesn't need spin. A 19-year marriage that looked picture perfect on red carpets, but was breaking behind closed doors. Nicole didn't air it out. She didn't point fingers or chase sympathy. She simply filed the papers, and in doing so, told the whole story without saying a word. 306 versus 59. That's not a statistic. That's a heartbreak in legal form. It's the sound of a woman who gave everything finally walking away because she realized love shouldn't feel like loneliness. Keith Urban didn't lose his marriage overnight. He lost it one missed dinner at a time, one empty seat at breakfast, one tour that lasted too long. Success gave him fame, but it also took his family. And by the time he noticed, Nicole was already gone, not in anger, but in peace. This divorce wasn't about betrayal or scandal. It was about exhaustion, the kind that creeps in slowly when one person stays and the other keeps leaving. Nicole chose to stop performing the perfect wife and start living as a present mother. Keith chose the spotlight, and now the spotlight's showing everything he left behind. The papers don't lie. The silence doesn't hide. And the truth? It's colder than any rumor the internet could ever invent. Hollywood might dress it up as irreconcilable differences, but the fans see what's really there. A woman reclaiming her life and a man learning what happens when fame costs more than love. Want the real stories that cut past the PR gloss? The secrets, the patterns, and the power plays the stars never admit? Stay locked in with BarzBuzz, where we don't chase headlines, we expose the heartbeat behind them,